Today, there's been a lot of discussion, speculation, and even some heated debates among wrestling fans, and the reason behind all of this revolves around Rhea Ripley. She has once again sparked conversation across the wrestling community, and it's not just because of her dominance in WWE but also because of her recent comments. Now, instead of just giving you my perspective, I'm going to let her words guide the conversation because what she said has opened up an interesting topic that doesn't always get the attention it deserves. Let's start with the obvious. Rhea Ripley is not just a star in WWE's women's division, she is one of the biggest overall stars in the entire company. Whether you love her or hate her, there's no denying that her popularity is through the roof. When you think of top-level talent, the kind of names that define eras, Rhea Ripley's name is right there. She's massively over with the audience, and calling her over is almost an understatement. She is one of the central attractions of WWE right now, a name that drives ticket sales, merchandise, and viewership. Now, being such a big name in WWE doesn't just mean going out and putting on good matches week after week. It also comes with the responsibility of keeping an eye on the bigger picture, especially in a division as stacked as the women's roster. A star of Ripley's stature needs to be constantly evaluating her opponents, keeping an eye on who's rising, who's losing steam, and who might be the right opponent down the line. That's part of what makes someone not just a wrestler but a main event attraction. CM Punk, in his original run with WWE, was very open about this kind of forward thinking. He always had his eye on not just who he was feuding with at that moment, but also who he would work with after, and then after that, and so on. He wanted a 6-month to a year-long picture of where his character was going, who he was matched with, and whether those storylines were worth the investment. Ripley now finds herself in that same position, and that mindset is crucial for someone of her stature. Recently, Ripley gave an interview to Sports Bible where she was asked to name one woman in WWE whom she felt was the most underrated talent in the division. Her answer surprised a lot of people. Out of all the names she could have chosen from WWE's stacked women's roster across Raw, SmackDown, and NXT, Ripley chose Candice LeRae. That's not a name most fans had on their radar for this type of discussion, which is why it has sparked so much debate. Ripley explained that there are many talented women in WWE who don't get enough opportunities or TV time to show the world what they can do, and while it's difficult to single out just one person, she specifically mentioned Candice LeRae as someone she deeply respects. Ripley spoke highly of working alongside her in NXT, praising the way LeRae's mind works when it comes to wrestling. She noted that LeRae has a veteran presence in the ring. She keeps everyone calm, comes up with strong ideas, and knows exactly what to do at the right time. Ripley expressed that she wishes someone like LeRae would get more opportunities to shine on the big stage. Those were Ripley's words, and they were filled with respect and admiration for LeRae. However, this is where some fans, and even analysts, beg to differ. While it's true that LeRae is a skilled in-ring performer and has carved out a respected career, some believe that calling her underrated might not be entirely accurate. The argument is that Candice LeRae is simply Candice LeRae, a solid, dependable wrestler who has made her name both on the independent scene and within WWE. Her ability in the ring is unquestionable, and that's what got her noticed and signed by WWE in the first place. The issue, critics argue, is not with her wrestling ability but with her lack of personality and character on television. While she comes across as incredibly likable, humble, and sweet outside of the ring, she hasn't managed to translate that same charisma onto WWE programming. In wrestling, having technical skills will take you far, but what truly makes someone a star is their character, their ability to stand out, and their presence in front of the camera. And that's where LeRae, according to her critics, falls short. Take her time in NXT, for example. Her biggest storyline came when she was part of the Way alongside Johnny Gargano, Austin Theory, Dexter Lumis, and Indy Hartwell. In that faction, Gargano was overflowing with personality. Theory was clearly being set up as a future star. Lumis had his unique silent character, and Indy Hartwell brought an engaging presence that fans connected with. Candice, while a good worker in the ring, was seen as just being there without really standing out. The same pattern has continued on the main roster. She can put on good matches, but she hasn't developed a distinctive persona that separates her from the rest of the roster. Wrestling history has shown us that great in-ring ability is not always enough. You need the character, the charisma, the larger-than-life presence to really break out, and Candice hasn't shown that side of herself on television. This is why many disagree with Ripley's statement. For example, if we're talking about underrated stars in WWE's women's division, some would argue that Nia Jax actually fits that description better, and that's surprising because, for a long time, Nia Jax was one of the most criticized wrestlers on the roster. She had the reputation of being unsafe in the ring, of injuring her opponents, and of lacking charisma. Many fans, myself included, were not supporters of her earlier run in WWE, but since her return, things have changed drastically. In her second run, Nia Jax has shown real growth. She has improved her in-ring safety, taken better care of her opponents, and developed much stronger mic skills. Her personality has come through more. and she's become a more well-rounded performer. Every negative that fans once attached to her, whether about her work, her personality, or her safety, has been addressed and, in many ways, flipped. That's why some believe she is the real underrated star of the division, far more than Candice LeRae. Natalya is another example. She's always been respected as a phenomenal in-ring worker, one of the most technically gifted women in WWE, but she too often suffers from being bland or lacking the personality to elevate her role beyond being a reliable worker. That's why when you compare talents like Candice and Natalya to stars such as Ripley, Becky Lynch, Bayley, or Charlotte Flair, the gap in charisma and presence becomes even clearer. So, while Ripley's choice of LeRae comes from a place of respect and admiration, it's understandable why not everyone agrees. Many fans simply don't see Candice as underrated but rather as someone who is exactly where she should be in the hierarchy, a good wrestler who hasn't yet found that special spark to break through as a star. Now, because this discussion has been so divisive, fans are left debating two key questions. Is Ripley right about LeRae being underrated, or is she overestimating her? And if LeRae isn't the most underrated talent, then who is? That's the beauty of wrestling discourse. Opinions will always differ, and fans will continue to passionately argue their points. But speaking of debates, let's also take a look at Mercedes Moné, who continues to stir headlines in AEW. While Rhea Ripley is solidifying her legacy in WWE, Mercedes has been carving out her own path after leaving WWE and making her way to All Elite Wrestling. Since her arrival, she has been one of the most talked about names, with Tony Khan reportedly signing her to a huge money contract in 2024. Mercedes has been positioned as a cornerstone of AEW's women's division, and that hasn't come without its controversies. There have been rumors, criticisms, and discussions among fans about her role in AEW, her booking, and whether she has lived up to the hype. Mercedes herself recently addressed the controversy, acknowledging that she's heard the speculation but standing firm in her belief that AEW values her star power and that she's making a real difference for women's wrestling in the company. She has also been vocal about her thoughts on AEW versus WWE when it comes to women's wrestling, at one point suggesting AEW's division rivals WWE's, something that has drawn both support and backlash from fans. Regardless of where you stand, it's undeniable that Mercedes Moné's name carries massive weight. Just like Rhea Ripley's, both women are at the forefront of conversations about modern women's wrestling, albeit in different companies. Ripley is dominating WWE, while Mercedes is trying to help elevate AEW's women's division to a higher level. So, circling back, Rhea Ripley's comments about Candice LeRae have opened the door to an important conversation. What does it really mean to be underrated? Is it simply about being a good worker who doesn't get TV time? Or does it also require showing the charisma, the character, and the spark to connect with the audience? That's for fans to decide. What we know for sure is that Ripley's word carries weight. When a top star like her takes the time to praise someone, people pay attention, whether you agree with her choice or not. It has put Candice LeRae back into the conversation, and that in itself might be a small victory for her. Now I want to hear from you. Do you agree with Rhea Ripley's assessment that Candice LeRae is the most underrated woman in WWE? Or do you think the honor belongs to someone else entirely? And on the flip side, what are your thoughts on Mercedes Moné's continued push in AEW?